You got it.
Well, good evening and welcome to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. My name is Richard Siegel, a certified sex therapist.
And I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator.
And you know what else? My awesome big brother.
That's still my favorite role.
And
love to be here with you.
Yeah, we're excited to be launching from home. Of course, everyone still remains sheltering in place in the COVID pandemic, but after probably close to 150 shows, this is in some ways our first.
Yes,
we
indeed.
have cut the umbilical cord to terrestrial radio.
In fact, let's have a toast to that.
I would love that very, very much.
A little bit of unfiltered sake.
My droog.
My droogie in return.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oddly appropriate for a sex talk show, but let's not get too deep into that.
Well, you know that how they use this milky sake in some of the fertility rituals.
Indeed. We have to go to Japan and see one of those in person.
Yes, indeed.
Well, that's delicious. So we apologize for the rough-hewn edges this week, but we're in a transition week. We're just going to do a little half hour talking about what you can expect. We hope we're glad to have you if you're with us on live on Facebook, and we will be back next week in our usual slot, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Fridays.
Yes.
For Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers, with a much more polished, professional show. We have lots of wonderful plans.
Yes.
Lots of we'll be exercising our freedoms, being untethered from the Federal Communications Commission.
As a matter of fact, if we can, let me have your glass. Let's take another toast. To the FCC.
Yes, I have a good one.
Since they're no longer there, I'm sure it's probably the same as the one I have in mind.
Go for it.
Fuck the FCC.
Fuck. We just had to get that out of our system after holding it in on the radio for almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years. That's right. Couldn't say, and now we can even say blue balls.
And cum. Which is kind of what this unfiltered sake looks eerily like.
That's right. Tastes a whole lot better from what I hear.
So we are thrilled. It's been an honor and a treat to be doing this, to have this forum for a half an hour a week. And then, of course, with the internet, it's recorded and uploaded. We'll have a YouTube channel streaming. And it's always important. It's always a good time for sex talk. So it's an honor for us to be able to put this out there and have a platform for our own rantings and ravings and venting the frustrations we've shared for about 30 years now in sexuality education.
And we don't seem to be running out.
And sex ed. Yes, we always talk about how we're fueled by outrage and frustration and aggravation.
That's right.
Like I think a lot of our compatriots in the field.
Well, it's kind of, it's one of those things where if you're not angry and if you're not pissed off about what's going on, then you're just not paying attention.
Isn't that a bumper sticker a while back?
Probably a long time ago. We need to bring that back.
You're not outraged. You're not paying attention.
Right.
And how often are you talking about while there's always the crazy clown car stuff that distracts everyone's attention? What's been happening slowly and steadily, nonstop since day one of the Trump administration that doesn't get coverage.
Most of
behind all of the crazy. He's out there talking about injecting Lysol and people running around like their hair's on fire. Meanwhile, the courts are filling up.
That's right.
So steadily with conservative anti-choice judges. More and more rights are being threatened all the time. That makes you wonder, this even the 21st century?
How about William Barr, right? His attorney general is out there every day with an army of attorneys that are going in every appeals court there could be, in every federal court, and doing their damnedest to eliminate the Affordable Care Act. I mean, they're an active army working to do this. Again, you talk about the judgeships that are being filled. How much under the radar are all of these complete anti-choice, eliminate abortion as a medical service, all of these movements that are going around.
The also never-ending chipping away at Roe v. Wade since the ink
Mhm.
dried on the paper in
That's right.
1973 has ramped up and is now on steroids. We were talking last week, the only ones, but besides the kooks showing up with their guns, having the audacity. Oh, if this is not the ultimate in ignorance or irony or just plain ignorant irony, the audacity of these gun-wielding nut jobs using the
anti-choice,
right,
nut
holding
jobs.
placards with the phrase "My body, my choice." Right. Like, could you possibly be that lacking in self-awareness to see the irony?
Absolutely.
That everything they represent is anti-choice in any possible realm to do with sexuality, but now being told to stay home to protect yourself and everyone else, more importantly.
And that's really the key to the stupidity.
From a viral pandemic, you can't tell me what to do. It's my body.
That's right.
Yeah, go get the virus and let's thin the herd from idiots.
Exactly.
Right?
And, last week you made a really good point.
Moi?
You did.
I did?
Especially sort of comparing that stupidity to the anti-vaxxers. And these people that think, I have the choice, I have the right as a parent whether or not to vaccinate my kid. No, you don't.
You don't have the right to put my kid in danger if my kid is in school with your kid.
That's what these people don't realize, that when it comes to public health issues, who was it? What was his name? He used to write for Rolling Stone, P.J. O'Rourke, right? Who once made a statement that I love, and I think this should be tattooed on every conservative's forehead, right? That
backwards,
your
so they can read
right
it in the mirror.
That wouldn't help. They can't read anyway. But your right to swing your arm anywhere you want ends at the tip of my nose. Right? So people have to understand that, this idea of individual freedom and liberty, which first of all does not mean anything goes. Just like free speech does not mean you can say whatever you want to whomever you want, whenever you want, with no consequences. Mm-hmm. Read your constitutions, people. What free speech is about is not being penalized by the government for speaking out against the government. Right. It's about criticizing the people in power and the authorities and not having to worry about being put in jail for that, which people are kind of anyway. But it doesn't mean that you can say anything at work, you can say anything at school, you can say anything to anybody you want and think there are no consequences because you have free speech. That's dumb. Yeah. It really is. That's just dumb. And unfortunately, there are a lot of dumb people who are filled. Again, during the 2016 election, we sort of divided these people up into basically two groups. There are those people that actually think with the rational, logical, frontal and prefrontal cortical areas of their brain. And there are those that don't think, they just react with a quivering amygdala. And it's this blind, emotional, rage-driven...
Fear and rage.
Yeah, fear and rage-driven ideology. And they think they're smart. That's the thing that kind of gets me. They think they know. Do you think you know what the Constitution says about guns? Read it. It doesn't say what you think it does.
Yeah. See the militia meeting at your gated community clubhouse to make sure your town arsenal is well stocked.
That's right.
In case the government comes around.
But there's a point that is also very worth mentioning with all this. Because again, I think one of the things that we're railing against is the short-sightedness and the narcissism and the ignorance of these people who think that, they should have the right to go out and infect themselves with coronavirus and, forget about consequences. But it's a lot more than that. And what I really want to emphasize to everybody else is that, this idea of being in it together, this idea of looking out for each other and the sheltering in, which is really a tremendous part being protecting other people, not just ourselves. You look at what's already done. I kind of put this in the post that I put up this afternoon. But we literally are, as cliche as it sounds, we literally are making the world a better place. We're giving the world, the earth, a chance to breathe. Look at what's happening in Los Angeles. When was the last time anybody saw blue sky in Los Angeles or saw the sky in Beijing and Manila? These places that, this is really making a difference.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, we can see that, yeah, it does matter when we're all sharing this responsibility and we're all looking out for each other. This is tangible.
Yeah, a lot of silver linings, and one of them, yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that whatever the new normal is, it can't be the old normal. Too much has changed, and too much can't go back.
That's right. That's right. I just love the fact that we're giving things a chance to regenerate. And I mean, I wish I had more faith in humanity, and particularly this country, to think that we might finally get it. Here it is, right in our face, undeniable. We can see that we can do something. People that have been denying climate change, oh no, it's not man-made. Take man-made or take man away and look at what happened to the skies in all of these cities. How is that not incontrovertible proof for that?
Like our last guest, Don Lucas, when we were talking about offering someone a proven solution to huge societal ills, and the powers that be go, nah, no thanks.
Right.
Nah, we don't want it because it makes us feel squishy. Yeah. And we might have to have difficult conversations.
Well, that's the thing. No. Oh, yeah.
We will say no thank you to your proven effective cure for poverty and depression and failure for women to achieve equality in society. Nah, we don't. No thanks.
Right.
No.
Right. We'll stick to what we're doing.
If that's not a voluntary insanity, if that's not choosing to go against your own best interest, right? Remember, we promised on the air, and we're going to have to stick to it, and it's creeping up real fast like everything else as we get old.
Yeah.
But in June, before Father's Day, will be the return after how many years?
Well, if we can do it with this corona.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll do it virtually.
Okay.
But we have to bring back Daddy's Little Girl, the role of fathers in the healthy sexual development of their daughters. And how in the world, I know that's a mouthful, but how can anyone with a sane thinking mind say, no, I'm opposed to that. I'm against that concept. I don't think fathers should have a role in the healthy sexual development of their daughters. Right. I think fathers should stay out of it. Well, then where does the healthy part of sexual development come from?
Exactly.
If dad stays out of it, right? Like we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Where is the pro-date rape lobby that's demanding equal time, that we can't have date rape prevention programs in the school because, we don't want to talk about all that sex stuff.
But that's the thing. And that's,
we don't have enough trigger warnings.
That's really that sort of dissociation. Dissociative disorder even that I think is almost systemic, that no, we do want to talk about date rape. We do want to talk about sexual assault. We just don't want to talk about sex. So can we talk about date rape? And can we talk about rape without talking about sex?
Sure.
And these people that look to whitewash and say, oh, no, it's not a sexual crime. It's a violent crime. Let's just talk about power and power.
Yeah, but we won't talk to young men about how to not grow up to do these things. We'll talk to girls about how to defend against them.
Right.
Because, boys will be boys.
Right. So, and that means that they're going to use their penis as a weapon. If you want to talk about power, then let's talk about penises and how they are used as a weapon of power. So we want to have that lead foot about being power and abuse. I'm all for that, as long as we're following that up with penises. We can't avoid that. But that's the rub, so to speak. They want to talk about all of these sexual and sex-related issues. As you said, that we know that if we sort of mitigate some of those sex-related problems, we can help mitigate a lot of other social problems and social issues, but they would rather not talk about sex. And do you know how people even do it that way? They're talking in regular conversation, and they can be even loud, and they're emphasizing something, but they always have to whisper sex when they're talking.
You said rub and penis.
I did. I did.
I'm telling. So yeah, that's why it's just so important to always, it's not even, of course, the classic talk. Oh, it's time we had the talk with Junior. That's always been, in the history of always, been way too little, way too late, way too awkward, way too unnatural. sex education for
Mhm,
kids should
mhm.
never be a talk.
Right.
It should be an ongoing part of raising a kid.
Exactly.
That every moment of their development
Right.
is contributing to their sense of themselves
Right.
and how they
Right.
feel inside their own skin. That also happens to be the core of where sexual health comes from.
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
someone feels inside their own skin and how connected to or disconnected from their
Right.
own hardwired physiological, psychological, emotional, and spiritual sexual selves.
And and I really look forward to having a lot more of those conversations and really talking about how things really are getting worse. They're not getting better.
Yeah.
In this
And
age of
quickly.
internet and this
Yeah.
information society and world that we're living in, let me say something to parents. I brought this up in
There
an
he goes again.
academic. No, but I brought this up in an academic setting, with this online, what can we do to reach students better? And now I'll do this online stuff, which most teachers and adults are so ill prepared for. But one of the things that I'm hoping more and more people are going to start to see is that just because your kid spends a lot of time on their phone, and just because they tweet and Snapchat and TikTok and do all their social media stuff, doesn't mean they know anything about this stuff. Just because they may pore through viral videos and they have access to things online doesn't mean they have any understanding or knowledge about this stuff. Again, we've talked about this before, that college students don't even know how to attach a document and send an email.
Yeah.
Right? They're completely thrown into a tizzy by that. When you talk about looking something up and finding information, it's actually, I think, degrading knowledge as opposed to adding to knowledge, because the overwhelming sense that people feel with so much out there. I've been thinking the other day, years ago, when you had to look something up in a dictionary, or you have to go look encyclopedias or look something up in the library, you read it. You looked for it and you read it. Now, nobody goes past a headline.
Yeah.
Right? People will read headlines. People will read a Wikipedia entry and think they just got informed.
I did research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't even do search. That's what I tell my students all the time. You didn't even search, much less research. Right?
Yeah.
So this is something we really have to step up on.
Intimately tied with internet and research and knowledge literacy comes porn literacy.
Right.
And whose job is that? Right?
Yeah.
Parents, are you talking to your kids about porn, or are you pretending that they don't see it, that it doesn't exist?
That's right. My kid doesn't watch porn.
Should have brought those numbers, that fascinating study, which asked parents what percentage of parents think their kids have seen various aspects, particularly violent aspects of porn. And then numbers of the kids, what percentage of kids actually reported having seen those things. Right. So talk about another disconnect.
Yeah.
Last generation, it was cute to say, oh, the kids have to show the parents how to turn on the computer. Now it's not so cute when, Gen Zers know more than, forget about their parents, they know more than their teachers and their therapists about anything to do with sexuality.
But that's, again, that's what drives me crazy. I don't think they do. They're exposed to more stuff.
I'm not saying they know a lot.
Right? There's that. That's not a hard standard necessarily.
Sexual literacy is not rampant among boomers or Gen Xers either.
Absolutely. But again, they only seem to know what they're reading on social media and what's trendy and what's fadistic. And again, we mentioned this before. We're going to talk more in depth about this, certainly in a future episode, how, again, millennials and Zers who kind of put themselves out there as label rejectors. We don't want your labels, don't want any labels. Yet I don't think we've ever had generations that are more obsessed and more almost fetishistic about their labels, especially the sexual and gender identity labels. They, I think, are legitimately fetishistic.
That's a powerful point that we do need to devote time to, but I want to use it to segue in what time we have left for tonight's show, because I had the pleasure of another silver lining in this COVID insanity. Another silver lining for me was the ability to attend. I've been trying to get to this conference since they started, which was 5 years ago.
Yeah, up in New
The
York.
Alt Sex Conference. Our friends and colleagues, Michael Aaron and Dulcinea Pitagora, have been co-hosting. This is a brilliant idea. I don't know why nobody thought of it sooner, and it's just terrific. They use a Broadway theater during the day when it's empty, and have been doing this annual conference. And of course, now this year, since we've all been forced online, I was able to attend. And
can you just say a minute about alt sex, what that refers to?
Yeah, that's a lot of things. It's become another one of those banner things, right? Alternative, just like alt rock, nobody knows what that means anymore. Alternative relationships, consensual non-monogamy, polyamory, are they the same? Are they different? Kink and paraphilias, and is it a private, personal sexual script, or is it a community, an identity? So the keynote speaker for the conference was the inimitable Kate Bornstein, who's just incredible to listen to. But one point that stood out, I mean, she's got a book coming out and talked about, they have a book coming out and talked about gender in this 4-dimensional, taking from gender theory and Tibetan Buddhism and quantum physics. I mean, really remarkable. I mean, this simple point: how come we can accept that a light can be a particle and a wave at the same time? That's a mind-blowing concept, that you can have a photon
of light. Took a long time for physicists to accept that.
A photon of light on your nose, and as soon as you look away from it, it's a wave. But we're so locked into a gender binary that there's this angry, frightened resistance to accepting the possibility that something can be both and, either or, both and, in any aspect of life. But anyway, that was just one of many powerful talks all day, and I just really wanted to give kudos to Michael Aaron, friend of the show. It's been a couple of years. We'll have to have him back on, and I've wanted to spend time. I've known Dulcinea only by reputation for a long time, and it was really good to get to interact, even if virtually. And Debbie Herbenek, of course, we've referenced her stats several times on the show. Those studies about stuff. Just more of those lessons about how far we have to go in terms of healthy sexuality. Again, gender expectations, what good sex is to men versus women, and a wonderful session on Bait On Bros, a safe space to heal sexual shame for men who like to masturbate. Healing through whoredom, from patriarchy to embodiment. We have to get some of these powerful people on the
absolutely.
show.
We'll do it. And that's one of the great things about what we're going to be doing from this point forward. We're going to have some of these segments, and we're going to have more production. We're going to be able to feature some of those things in a way that we really couldn't just in a half-hour live call-in type of format.
A really, kind of an informational. We've talked about this horrible thing on the show a couple times, an informational session on what's come to be called FOSTA SESTA, right? I don't even remember the acronyms anymore, but these laws, always, again, under the pretense of protecting the children, that have basically eliminated things from the internet like My Back Page, and forced, kind of like the old Anthony Comstock days, forced sex workers, in some cases, back out on the street, into dangerous situations, incapable of conducting commerce because of fears of being slapped with trafficking charges.
That's right.
Because we have to protect the children, like sex workers or some, we'll save that for another show.
But again, a lot of these things that connect to that, even like what we were talking about last week with the CARE Act, this money for crisis for people who are out of work, and even people with legal and legitimate careers and jobs that happen to involve sex in some way. It doesn't have to be like prostitution.
No,
condom
manufacturers.
Absolutely. They are specifically excluded from any kind of assistance. So it's not just, again, looking at sex workers. It's
Yep.
the entire
Of
world.
course. What Marty Klein
sex and
called
sexuality.
America's War on Sex in
Right.
his groundbreaking book. There's like 8 or 9 different fronts that have been constantly going
Right.
on all at the same time. Birth control is back in the crosshairs.
Yes, it is.
This insanity that it's elective, and why should it be covered? And why shouldn't religious valued corporations be allowed to deny their employees insurance coverage for something that they don't believe in?
Well, there's that Hobby Lobby nonsense.
Yeah, that's coming back. And of course now Trump,
Well, there's a precedent
there's
now.
another endeavor to allow medical providers to deny health care to anyone they feel uncomfortable with, gays,
particularly
lesbians,
gay and
trans folks, anyone identifying as gender non-binary.
And again, you want that slippery slope? All right, okay, maybe gay, bisexual, trans, intersex, yet that slippery slope. How about any ethnicity that you choose to discriminate against? How about going back against Blacks and African Americans? Because hey, it's against my religion. If you're Klan, for example, that's your religion. Right? Yeah. That's not just your stupidity. That's your religion. Right? So, I mean, there really is that slippery slope.
But I missed the segue. The thing that brought Kate Bornstein to mind, one of the many powerful things she said, was talking about those elements, identity and expression and assignment, gender assignment, and gender attribution. When you walk down the street and somebody says, "Oh, that's a man, that's a woman," but gender identity. Even sexologists, everybody, we're always taught that this is an internal thing. This is me, my gender identity that I have to come to terms with. And she just put it in such a way that was such an aha moment that, hell it is. That's an external thing. That's a public space thing. Yes. Because if I claim an identity, who am I identifying with? Right. That's my clan. That's exactly my tribe.
Right. That's exactly right. And part of my identity is the external validation that I'm getting. The feedback that I'm getting,
right? Yeah, right. So, wow, it's
so yeah. Gender has really become a much more complicated issue than it used to be.
Oh, and I just have to say, because it wins the gold prize for one of the best titles ever. The closing keynote was our dear friend James Wadley, also a former guest on the show. My co-editor and fellow chapter author in the art of sex therapy supervision.
And all around good egg.
Really just awesome dude. Did a talk called, "I love you, but you need to take your ass home. Boundary formation, maintenance, and severance in polyamorous relationships."
Interesting.
But I want to talk to him more. We'll have to have him back on the show, because something that we talked about as well before. When there are, when folks identify as polyamorous, but all the rules about their behavior are based on a monogamous dyad.
Sure, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's you're monogamous or you're polyamorous. Well, we're polyamorous in the context of a monogamish, to use Dan Savage's word, dyad.
Yeah.
So there's, I was a little thrown to hear him talking about secondary and tertiary partners. Like, do they know they're called that?
Right.
And how do they feel about that?
Right.
And in the true polycule, doesn't everybody consider themselves primary?
Well, but see, and again, I think another really good topic to talk about, because that's another thing that has gone through this tremendous flux. When we first started to really look at and see this concept of polyamory and looking at poly relationships, it was really more about, couples versus thruples. And we look at those dynamics.
Or swinging and open marriage.
But they were all different entities. Right. Now it seems to be all one big ball of poly.
Everything user defined.
Again, the definitions, I think, have often gotten lost. Or the other side of that is we've kind of just become overbearing with identifying every little supposed dynamic. Yeah. Right. So again, the labeling, has gotten to be problematic.
We will have James back on the show for sure.
Yeah, definitely would look forward to that. That'd be a good conversation. And certainly anybody that has any kind of ideas, anything that you have an interest in, that you are curious about, any questions about, anything that you would like us to talk about, if you think it's certainly important enough for us to do that, please let us know. Contact us through our Facebook page.
There's a little button that says send email, or you can comment next to the, as the show is running. You can ask us any question or make any suggestions that you might like.
Yes.
I can also be reached. You can just shoot an email to ricky@modernsextherapy.com. And of course, I also have to give a big, warm, happy plug for Modern Sex Therapy Institutes, where my brilliant partner, Dr. Rachel Needle, and I have been training psychotherapists and medical professionals and educators to become sexuality counselors and sex therapists.
Yes.
And we are now a degree granting institution. So any of you master's level clinicians who are considering adding a PhD in clinical sexology to your professional skill set, you can check out modernsextherapyinstitutes.com.
Mm-hmm. Right. And anybody interested in counseling and psychotherapy, couples, individuals, family, you can give him a call as well through Modern Institutes.
Actually, also very proud to be affiliated with Helping Moon Counseling in Boca Raton and the Wolf Pack.
Indeed. And you'll also be hearing more from my nonprofit institute, Sage Institute for Family Development. So as we bring all of this stuff together, as we move forward, really looking forward to the potential that we have now and the things that we're going to be able to do. I feel like we've been kind of let loose and sort of cut free in some ways.
It's very exciting. We're really looking forward to where we can bring sex talk with the Siegel Brothers.
Absolutely. So we want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Hopefully next week we'll have new music and we'll have some titles, and we're really going to start getting into it. And again, we invite your feedback and sort of help us really bring this to another level. So thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great night.